So I would love you guys to leave your comments looking back at 2024. What was the biggest area of need or fix heading into 2025 that you did not want to see the Packers replicate in order to have a successful 2025 season? Leave your comments. Let me know your thoughts. For me, without a doubt, the biggest problems for the Green Bay Packers outside of injuries, that's something that you can't fix. Penalties and drop passes were the biggest areas of fixing heading into 2025. However, penalties was something that heading into the bye week, Matt LaFleur recognized as a big issue on this Green Bay Packer defensively and offensively. And that was something that we saw a dramatic decrease in the amount of penalties post the bye week. But drop passes were another story. That was something that we saw as a consistent theme throughout the remainder of the season. And pulled up an article from last year. And it says right here, the Green Bay Packers must fix a glaring issue with drop passes if the passing game is to take that step forward heading into 2025. And it says both Matt LaFleur and Brian Gutekunst preach better consistency in their year-end press conferences. While consistency is a multifaceted problem, catching the football more consistently would go a long way in helping the Green Bay Packers achieve their overall goal this upcoming season. That certainly was an issue for this Green Bay Packer team. But I think the Green Bay Packers may have fixed that issue. Okay. So, and I'm going to explain why in this video. Okay. Drops are a subjective stat, and I understand that and take that into consideration here. But according to PFF, receivers, the Green Bay Packers receivers dropped 8.3% of Jordan Love's passes, which was the third highest rate among qualifying quarterbacks. Okay. The Packers had the highest drop rate at 6.3% and the second highest number of drops. According to PFF, the Packers had the third highest number of drops at 33 and the second highest drop rate at 6.9. And the wide receivers that were the biggest offenders of that, Jaden Reed dropped 10 passes, ranking it was the third most amongst players. He was tied for the third most amongst players. And then Dontavian Wicks dropped 7 passes, ranking 7th most in the NFL. But his 18% drop rate was the highest among all NFL players. And then Romeo Doubs had his fair share. He had 5 drops as well. Okay, so that was certainly an issue at the end of last year for the Green Bay Packers. In fact, you can see right here on this stat line, it says the Browns had the highest dropped passes. Aaron Rodgers and the Jets had the second most, and the Green Bay Packers were right behind them at 33 there. Certainly an issue that the Green Bay Packers needed to address heading into this offseason, heading into the draft. And what did they do this offseason? Well, they get a veteran piece there. And I'm not saying Hardman is that guy that's going to fix everything there, but as you can see right here, and this is in OTAs, you can see right here, Jordan Love airing it out, a 70-plus yard touchdown pass to Hardman. And that's something that Hardman's going to be able to bring to this young wide receiving room there in Green Bay. A very talented wide receiving room, that nobody's really taken that number one role of, hey, I'm the guy. I am the guy. Of course, Hardman's not going to be that guy. However, Hardman may, with his experience, with his veteran presence there, if he makes the team, because the Green Bay Packers are loaded. But iron sharpens iron. And we've talked about that numerous times. And getting a guy like Hardman there is certainly going to help the Packers get better. And then the Packers address this in the draft, right? They spend their first round draft pick to go get Matthew Golden, a guy that I think is going to help this Packer wide receiver room dramatically, okay? Especially when we start talking about drop passes and all of that. And here's his NFL overview scouting combine, right? So it says right here, Golden has the ability to play all 3 receiver spots. We already know that about him. He also has the agility and body control to turn near misses into highlight catches. Man, if that's not a breath of fresh air for Jordan Love, Matt LaFleur, and us Packer fans of the Packer organization, somebody that has some consistency out there, it's going to make everybody around him just be better. And what I mean by that, you also addressed Savion Williams. Okay, so Savion Williams, you get him in the draft as well. This is that utility knife. We talked about that. He is that utility knife wide receiver. He can play and help out offensively for Matt LaFleur. He can help it out multi facets of the game. And then you've got Jaden Reed, who, second most on the Green Bay Packers last year when we start talking, or first most when we start talking about drop passes. Jaden Reed is certainly going to benefit and dramatically improve in that area, I feel, because the Green Bay Packers went out and got Hardman, because they went out and drafted Golden and Savion Williams. And anytime they're adding depth to the wide receiving room or any position on the football field, everybody's going to step up their game just a bit. And these young guys are only going to get better anyways as it sits. But then when you add all this talent there, and you've got Hardman there, even, this veteran piece that we're talking about, that's going to be no position is solidified for him, because when you add guys like Savion Williams and Dontavian Wicks, we've talked about it numerous times. Dontavian Wicks with really the most drop passes when you look at the whole trajectory of the season. Dontavian Wicks, I feel, is that guy on the Green Bay Packers roster that could be that number one caliber wide receiver. Same thing with Matthew Golden. Jaden Reed is always going to be one of the better slot guys in the game, I feel. I think he's going to take that step forward, but he's that slot receiver that I think is always going to be a threat. Dontavian Wicks could be that number one caliber type wide receiver if he can get his catching abilities down. And I think the Green Bay Packers have fixed that. I think Brian Gutekunst made that an important piece of what he wanted to do this offseason by getting Hardman, by going to the draft, using that first round pick to get Matthew Golden, using that third round pick to get Savion Williams. And then you look at even just keeping and retaining. I think Bo Melton is going to be probably on the cornerback depth, but he's going to be another guy there that's not a wide receiver that could be used as a wide receiver if given the chance. So that being said, leave your comments. Let me know your thoughts. What was your biggest area of need or fix heading into 2025? For me, it was drop passes. When you break it down, I think that was the biggest area of need. And I think the Packers have fixed that by addressing that in free agency with getting Hardman, and then also in the draft as well. Leave your comments. And as always, go Pack Go.